Hi, and welcome to my very first YouTube video, my very first day in the life video. My name is Justine. I'm a mother to 6 and a wife, and my husband and I moved to our 15-acre piece of land 2 years ago, and since then we've just been working at turning it into our little homestead. Today is a Wednesday and it's quite cold out. It's also a flex day for my kids, which means some of them don't have school, so I had a pretty easy morning. At this point during the day, I've already gone for a workout, I've done my morning prayers, I've showered, and I'm just going to go ahead and check on the chickens and all the livestock and get the chores done. So this first part over here is our main chicken coop. This is where most of our chickens are, all our layers. And it's usually the kids' job to do the chores, but today I'm just going to make sure that we get their door open, get some fresh air in, and just double check that the kids have been keeping up with their chores, because sometimes they don't do as well as I would like them to. Our chickens are pretty spoiled. They get 2 different kinds of food. They get the dry food that you see in the feeder, and then they get this fermented food that we just pour right in. Fermenting chicken food is so easy and it can save you some money. All you have to do is put the dry food in a container, add some water, and let it sit on your counter for 3 days. At the end of the 3 days, it will be fermented and the chickens just love it. After we are done with the chicken chores in the morning, I go check on the cows. My husband is the one who's responsible for milking them in the morning, and then throughout the day I just do basically wellness checks. Over here is our Great Pyrenees Sheba. She's a year old and she's been a great addition to our farm. She likes to come along with us and just watch us do the chores. And over in the distance are our 6 cows. Well, 2 cows, 2 yearlings, 2 calves, and they're just seem content and they seem happy today. After I'm done checking on the cows, I go check on the other coop we have in our bigger barn. It's a coop filled with some roosters that we thought might be hens, so we did not butcher them in the fall, but we will butcher them in the spring. And some guinea fowl that we are hoping to actually hatch their eggs once they start laying. We're hoping we have some females in there. They're really hard to tell apart, so I guess we're gonna see what happens. And over here is where we keep the barn cat's food. Now I have it all roped off like this because the dogs kept getting in and eating the cat food, and it just wasn't fair to the poor kitties. So now we just leave the door open a crack and the cat's able to get in and out, and the dogs stay out. When we get back inside from doing chores, it's straight on to breakfast. Now, I don't like to feed my kids cold breakfasts on cold days, but my husband had actually eaten the kids' breakfast as a midnight snack the night before. He didn't know that it was supposed to be breakfast, in his defense, but it's gone. So I kind of had to scramble this morning, and we always have yogurt and granola, so that's what we're having, yogurt and granola with some raspberries. The next thing I do is clean up the dishes and just reload the dishwasher. Sometimes I listen to a podcast or some music while I'm doing this. I really hate emptying the dishwasher, so this is actually one of the worst parts of my morning, oddly enough. And I just noticed actually that I am wearing hot pink pajama pants And it's not a style choice, it's just because I forgot to bring leggings down, so I just threw on some pajama pants. While I'm at the sink, I usually fill up the fermented chicken food again and get it going for the next day. So it just needs to be filled up with water. And then I went ahead and I soaked some beans because we're having chili the next day. And I like to soak all my beans for 24 hours before. So I'll be adding those to bowls and then adding some water. And on top of that, I'll put on some yogurt whey, just a couple tablespoons, and let it sit on my counter until I'm ready to cook them. Another task I had to accomplish this morning is straining out our yogurt. So after I make yogurt, I strain it out and then I keep the whey in jars and we use it for various things. And I put the yogurt away in glass mason jar containers. That seems to be the best way to keep the yogurt and to stop it from going bad and getting some weird tastes in it. Next up is laundry. I do laundry every day. I've spent time researching, I've tried to figure it out, and guys, there is no way around it. If you have a bunch of kids, you have to do laundry every day. If you get even a little bit behind, it just gets to feel overwhelming. So my tip to you moms of large families is just do laundry. Just do it all the time. Have a load going, keep it going, and then you won't feel like you're ever drowning in laundry. After I'm done in the laundry room, I'll go pick out the baby's clothes for the day. I have a 5-month-old and an almost 2-year-old, so they can't dress themselves. And so I just take time to pick out their clothes. And I try to put them in something cute because sometimes when they're being bad, if they're dressed cute, you kind of forget about it. After everyone is dressed, we sit down and we do some schooling. Like I said earlier in the video, my youngest kids had a flex day, so they didn't really have any school today, but my oldest is, so right now we're just doing some history. Clothing and shoes were often handed down and worn. Afterwards, I just do more dishes. So most of my life is dishes and laundry, people. I'm starting to see that as I'm going through my day and just remembering how many times I did dishes that day. Another task I do over the winter is keep the wood-burning stoves going. We have 2 stoves, but this one in the back room is actually a cook stove. So I can heat up some meals on it, and it's actually quite quick and convenient for us. So today I'm warming up some potato soup, and it only took, honestly, about maybe 20 minutes to get it hot enough so that we could eat it. Another task I like to get done on Wednesdays is cleaning the washrooms. I usually do it either Wednesday or Thursday, but it definitely needs a good scrub down at least once a week, if not more. And then afterwards, I went and checked on the sourdough bread I had started the night before and just threw it in the oven quite quickly. I'm not artistic. I'm not going to make beautiful flowers, so I just kind of score it very, very quickly, good enough. It's going to get eaten so fast that at this point I don't really care about spending time making it beautiful. After the kids are done school, they usually kind of take a break. They're either playing outside or in their rooms. I usually make them clean up the room, but it actually wasn't them that made the bulk of this mess. It was actually the almost 2-year-olds. So I'm giving them a hand and cleaning up the floor for them, and they'll come in and pick up their books afterwards. It's probably around 12:30 at this point, and it's time for us to eat lunch. So I'm just putting all the soup in bowls and putting some bacon and some sour cream and some cheese on top. The kids like to watch me do this mostly because they were hungry that day. And the toddler is going to come in here very soon with a stool, which has been like the bane of my existence right now because he keeps climbing up on the countertops and it's dangerous and it's driving me insane. But this is the age where they start doing things like this, and I know I'm going to get through it. I know he's going to stop doing this at some point. I just have to get through it. After lunch, I decided I would try and wash my sheepskin rug. The first thing I wanted to do though is give it a good brush. So I used just a boar's hair brush and just brushed it off as well as I could, getting all the little pieces of stuff that was stuck in it and just getting it as clean as I could just with that brush. Once I was done brushing the rug, I took the kids outside. It was really cold that day, so the toddler and the baby only lasted about 20 minutes before they wanted to come back inside. Although that's a win for me because at least they got outside that day. The rest of the kids had a lot of fun. They did some sledding on the big hill my husband built for them and just got out all their extra energy, which is good. So after I put the babies down for their naps, I went back out and I started washing the blanket in the snow. So it's a really easy process. All you need to do is kind of work the snow into the hairs on the rug and then brush it off as quickly as you can. The only caveat is that the snow needs to be very, very cold and not that sticky stuff, that fine powdery stuff that you can just brush off because you don't want it actually wetting the blanket. And here it is, all clean afterward. Once we were done cleaning the rug, we had a little Jersey steer delivered. We got him because our cow calved in September and had a little heifer. And we need 2 beef cattle to get us through a year. And so we had a deficit and we needed to fill it. And here he is. His name is John Dory. We name all our animals regardless of if they're going to be going to the butchers at some point or not, because biblically, when you name something, you claim ownership over it. And so we claim ownership over all our cows. And the kids are just loving him so much. He's so friendly. We've never had a bottle baby here. So they are just friendlier and he's less skittish than the rest of our calves. And the kids are finding this very, very interesting. I was trying to teach the kids not to rub his head and rub his brisket instead, just for safety, because a cow's head, when it gets rubbed, it kind of means they want to fight. And if you rub their brisket, it's more affection, less aggressive. So just starting them off with proper techniques right off the bat. After we were done outside, it was about 4 o'clock and I needed to get started on supper. Tonight we're having pork chops, mashed potatoes, and some sauerkraut. The first thing I did was salt the pork and then I placed it in a cast iron skillet to sear on both sides. As the pork chops were searing, I diced up an onion. And afterwards, I just made a little sauce to go on top of the pork chops. So I put some bone broth, some Worcestershire sauce, some apple cider vinegar, and some Dijon, and I whisked it all together. I don't really measure, guys. I measure with my heart. I just kind of eyeball it, and it always turns out fine. Just as long as you're not adding too much of one thing or the other. And then my other tip is to taste it. Taste everything you make, because the only way you'll know if it tastes good or not is by trying it yourself. Once I finished searing the pork chops, I threw in the onion that I had just chopped up and just sauteed that with the pork chop drippings as well as a little bit of lard. And then afterwards I chopped up about 4 or 5 cloves of garlic and I threw those in as well. Once the onion mixture was done sauteing, I threw it over the top of the pork chops. And then I took that sauce that I had made and I put that on top of the pork chops as well. So I've got the pork chops divided in 2 pans just because we need bigger servings. And here's the finished product. Then I'm going to throw both these pans in the oven. I put them in for about 40 minutes and then I checked on them just to see at what point they were. Ours are quite thick, so they took a little bit longer than that. As the pork chops were cooking, I cut up some potatoes and I threw them in a pot to boil. And then afterwards, I'm going to be mashing those up with a little bit of salt and butter and onion powder. And I usually just use my hand mixer to do this. I used to use my actual mixer, but I hate dirtying another pot, so hand mixer it is. And it makes them all fluffy. I know some people complain about them being gummy when they use a mixer, but I've never had an issue with that and my family doesn't complain. And here is the finished product. We have our pork chops that we baked in the oven, the mashed potatoes I just made, and up here is some home canned applesauce I warmed up for dessert. We served this with some sauerkraut and some fermented dilly beans, and everyone was pretty pleased with what we ate. Once dinner is done, I usually hurry up and get the dishes done. I like to get my kitchen as clean as possible and not have anything sit out, so I do try to get this done pretty quickly. I also take the opportunity to make myself some kind of herbal tea, usually something with chamomile, so it kind of calms me down before bed. And over here, my 5-year-old is feeding the sourdough starter. The sourdough starter is called Sally, so we're feeding Sally while I fill up the Berkey. One of the last things I usually do for the day is folding the clothes from the laundry that I had started earlier. It's nice to have a task where I can sit down and do everything. And I don't know if anybody else does this, but I've always sat on the floor to fold laundry because then I can organize all the piles and there's so many people in their house. But thankfully, the older kids come grab their own piles and they'll put those away, so I don't have to be responsible for everyone but the babies. Once the laundry is put away, we usually have some family prayer time, and then the kids head off to bed, and my husband holds one or two of the babies while I get myself ready. And that gives me the opportunity to do something for myself, like read a book or take a bath. Tonight I chose reading a book. And that's the end of my day, guys. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. And if you would like to see more videos like this coming up, go ahead and subscribe, because I plan on putting one of these out once a week. So I will see you next time.